Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. It's your boy, MrDegenerate here, back at it again for another video. And holy shit, we are here. We are finally here. Sorry for the delay, but the game of the year, my personal game of the year, is here finally after so much fucking procrastinating and waiting and choosing which one was my game of the year. I finally had the time to do it. And I just wanted to talk about 2021 again and just say that 2021 was a very interesting year for gaming because there was not a definitive game of the year experience. You look back at 2018, I think you can look back and say, well, God of War deserved its game of the year. You could probably look at, regardless of how you feel about maybe Last of Us 2, that one game of the year, and some people would argue that felt like it deserved game of the year. Sekiro, you look at that game, I was like, oh, that's a From Software game. It deserved it because From Software has made a classic in the sense of the Souls games, made a defining genre game such as the Soul games. And I would say 2021 did not have that. It really did not have that. That being said, I think we've gotten to see a lot of incredible different viewpoints, and different people have different game of the years. And it was so fascinating watching a lot of game of the years videos while I was making my own, to see how much people had so many different games of the year. Now, me personally, this is going to be my personal opinions. So if you disagree, I apologize, but who gives a fuck? If you generally hate my game of the year, well, tell me, what is your game of the year? Sign off on the comment section down below, and let's get into this. But before we begin, let me just talk about some honorable mentions, and then we're going to get straight into our top 3, not top 5, top 3 game of the years. For our honorable mention, number 1, I'm going to give it to Tales of Arise. Tales of Arise is not my first Tales game. I've played a few Tales games, and they've been okay. I've never been super impressed by the Tales series. I do like its combat system more than most RPGs, only because it's more like a hack and slash more than like a turn-based. So I've always kind of enjoyed it, but it's just something about their games have never really clicked for me. And this is the first Tales game where it actually kicked to me. I don't know if it's because they actually had budget, and so they were able to have it be very open world, and you can jump and do all this stuff, or that the characters were very interesting. But the way how this game performs and the way how the combat system works is very cool, very flashy. And anybody who knows me, I love flashy shit. So it's like, I'm like a kid. You show me some flashy shit on the screen, I'll be like, oh, this is awesome. So it's definitely, I think, the strongest Tales game in a long time. And sadly, the only reason it's not on my top 3 is because I generally did not beat it. So this is kind of like an impression. I did not beat it. However, so far I'm like 15 hours in, and so far I've been very impressed. So I had to give it an honorable mentions at least. It is really a great game. My second honorable mentions will be Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I have to say, as someone who's a Jak and Daxter fan more than a Ratchet and Clank fan, this game generally made me miss Jak and really want a Jak 4, because this game was a lot of fun. It was a real cool your head, relax, chillax type of video game, and just a blast to play. It was very fun. I think the best thing I took out of this was 2 things. One, this game felt like a Pixar movie come to life. interactive Pixar movie, and it just looked cool. It looked great thanks to the graphics fidelity. And I think the second thing I took out of this was that I think this game showed a great work of how what the PS5 is going to be able to do in the future. Like the games that's going to come out for the PS5, only PS5 games, is going to be absolutely bonkers with how crazy the loading is, how crazy the environment and whatnot, and how much loading times were like extremely fast, and the haptic feedback on the controller. I think PS5 games in the future are gonna blow this shit out of the water, but it's a great testing for what's to come. That being said, the reason why this game is only an honorable mentions, I did beat it. However, I really just felt like this game was a real tech demo for what we can expect for Spider-Man 2. Like, let's be real. Like, this was fun, but Insomniac, stop playing. Like, this was alright. Give us what we really want. We want that Spider-Man 2, baby. Give us to us. Give it to us. Another game that I have to give an honorable mention to, my number 3, would be Halo Infinite. And man, it's great to have Halo back. It's great for the king to return to the throne. This game was a really fun game. Although I did not beat the campaign. I wasn't a huge fan of the campaign, if I'm being honest. I think my biggest problem with the campaign is that I think the mission structure and the free roaming aspect is very boring, and it takes away kind of like what makes Halo kind of cool, which is these cool set pieces. And this game is more like create your own set piece in the open world, and I just find that very boring. However, the reason why this game is honorable mention is not because of the single player. It's really because of that fucking multiplayer. That multiplayer is so much fun. The multiplayer felt like Halo 3 back in the day. Like early Halo 3, Reach, in particular Halo 3, old time. And I enjoyed every minute of my multiplayer sessions playing this game. They still have some bugs to iron out. They still have some things to iron out with that. We're missing a few features. I'm not going to name them all, but we're missing a few features. I don't know how you release a game that doesn't have these features and there's a Halo franchise. I don't know. However, what they do have, the core mechanics and what they have presented and what they have with the special abilities and whatnot, has been really fun. And especially that grappling hook is like, mwah, whoever thought of that idea of adding a grappling hook into Halo deserves a fucking raise. Is a really cool experience, and it was just fun to have Halo back. So honorable mentions really goes to Halo. Last but not least, as we wrap up our honorable mention, we have to give this game its moment of shine. Doki Doki Literature Plus. So, this game, I know technically speaking, came out a few years ago, when it had a re-release. So I'm going to still put it on the spotlight of honorable mention, because this is a game I highly recommend people do not look up. Just play it. It is fucking insane. It is such a really cool game. Is your visual novel type of game, and when you first playing it, you're kind of like, okay, this is kind of boring. I'm not into it. But as it gets further on, as you dive more deep into these characters and what's going the fuck on, it gets bonkers. And I think this was my second game that I watched my friend played halfway, and I was like, no, I gotta stop it and actually play it myself. And as I started playing it and I was figuring out shit and watching it, I got even more. I was like, what the fuck? And again, what helps this game out is if you do go in knowing absolutely nothing on what the fuck is going on, and I guarantee you'll enjoy this even better when you don't know what the hell is going on, with some of the plot twists, some of the crazy shit that happens. It is a blast, and whoever made this game, y'all guys are fucking weirdos, but okay. I enjoyed it though. Like, definitely a game that made me say maybe I should play more uh, novels games like this. It was a very relaxing, air quotes, experience. So now that we got all the honorable mentions out of the way, we can finally begin the top three. Let's start off with a little game. You might have played it, I don't know. You may have not. But I'm going to start off with a little game called Resident Evil Village, or RE8. Now, RE8, there's so much to discuss about this game. I think this is the most interesting and most coolest Resident Evil game I played. And I want to say that if you was a huge fan of Resident Evil 7, I feel like this game will either live up to your expectations or disappoint you. For me, it actually kind of shocked me how well crafted this game is made. This game is literally a homage to Resident Evil 4 mixed with Resident Evil 7 in terms of the first person viewpoint and whatnot. And I think the thing that stands out the most about this game and why I personally loved it so much is because of story, character, and in particular, the theme park aspect of this game. So what do I mean by theme park? I think it is no secret, and Capcom has already came out and said that was their design goal, is that this game felt like a huge theme park, horror theme park. Like this felt like I was going into a fucking horror theme park, and all the levels are broken up into different sections, and every section is a different theme. You got your gothic kind of horror in a sense of vampires when you're dealing with Lady Demetress, which was a fan favorite character, and I really enjoyed her much. But I also enjoyed her daughters. I'm about to say sisters. Her daughters were really cool. It was fun being chased around the mansion with her, and it was really bringing me back to like a RE1 creepy atmosphere vibe with her. But then you get out of the castle, and then you go to the dollhouse, and I don't have to tell you, that's like I think that's everyone's favorite section of the game. It's the dollhouse scene. That whole section and just figuring out how to escape the dollhouse is intense as fuck. And then you have the Loch Ness, the lake monster. That's also kind of good. I think that was kind of like the weakest part in my honest opinion, but it's also kind of good. And then you have this bio like experimental horror with Heisenberg's factory. So the game is constantly, and this is a praise I gave to Resident Evil 4, I'll give to this game. This game is always throwing new shit at you. I don't think to the extent of Resident Evil 4, but it does throw new enemies, new locations, new ideas at you, and it's never gets stale. This is the shortest. I did feel like this game was the shortest Resident Evil, but I would say that was in its benefit because it was more laser focused, unlike Resident Evil 7. And I personally love Resident Evil 7, but Resident Evil 7, everyone said this, but once you get to that fucking boat section, the game pacing just drops hard. And it's like, oh my god, we gotta go back, we gotta hide, we gotta run away from enemies, okay, we get a gun. It's annoying. The game never breaks its pace. Resident Evil 8 never breaks its pace. And I like the whole aspect of exploring the village, finding out what happened to the village. But I would say another biggest positive I would give to this game is Ethan as a character. This is the first time I actually can say I cared about Ethan Winters. Ethan in the first game was kind of bland. In fact, I think what was holding Resident Evil 7 up was the villains, Marguerite, Jack, Lucas, all of them was holding that game up, while I didn't give any fucks or care about anything that was going on with Ethan as a character on a whole. I didn't care for his plight, and Mia was irrelevant. I fucking hated Mia. However, when you think about Ethan in this, Ethan, you really, as you get closer and closer and you find out more and more and more things about this game, you feel really bad for Ethan. And I actually did like a lot of Ethan lines in here. At first, you're gonna be like, okay, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why are you talking like this, Ethan? But then, as the game got further, I was kind of like, this kind of brings me back to like old school Resident Evil, where it's kind of like some shitty ass dialogue, while everyone else is kind of talking proper and is like hamming it up. Ethan's kind of like being a fucking jokester a little bit, and is kind of like has a shock to everything. But for the most part, I really did feel for him, because all he ever wanted was just to have a nice house, a nice time with his wife, and raise his kid. And I was really feeling for him, because every moment it was just like, fuck me, like give my man Ethan a break, man. He just want to go home. He just want to lay down and be with his wife and all that. So I would say this game is by far the strongest Resident Evil. And I would say, in terms of lore, in terms of story, this has so many shocking revelations. I was like really stunned of some of the like revelations we get. And also, I think this is the first Resident Evil where I generally said to myself, holy shit, what happens next? Like, where are we going with this? Like, okay, I'm intrigued about Resident Evil 9. Where are we going? Like, just everything. And like I said, I think this game is beautifully paced. Beautifully paced. I know people won't like the final part where you're playing as Chris, but man, that was just epic, you know. And compared to Resident Evil 7, this game does, however, have problems, and this is why it's on my number 3. While I think the gunplay is great, and while I think the first person camera adds something to the atmosphere and whatnot, I'm starting to get a little tiresome of the first person viewpoint. I think it's time to roll back to the third person. First person is kind of like, it's starting to get a little stale. But that's just me. Another thing is, and this is a big criticism I've talked a bit around my friends, and I just feel like once you beat this game, there's not a lot to do. Now, in Resident Evil 7, they did come out with a season pass that had a bunch of content, and then we had a free content, which was the Chris campaign, mini campaign, and I was very impressed by how much content we got for Resident Evil 7. We had the Baker incident, like what happened to the Bakers, like what happened to like the Bakers before the infection hit. You had funny stuff like Jack's birthday. You had like this puzzle game where you had to kind of escape from Marguerite. You had so many cool ones. My personal favorite, you had Zoe's End, and also Ethan Must Die. Cool little mini. In Resident Evil 8, there's only just Mercenaries, and Mercenaries is fucking trash, which is odd, because Mercenaries, first of all, this Mercenaries doesn't have multiple characters you could play as, so that's not Mercenaries. And also, I found it a little annoying to get enemies to keep spawning. The enemies were kind of separated, unlike regular Mercenaries, where there's waves of enemies just approaching you and coming after you. This didn't have it, and I don't know if it's because the system couldn't handle it. I don't know, but I just was not feeling Once you beat this game, there's not much. Unless you're going to play New Game Plus and play with stronger weapons, yeah. But other than that, I think this was a fine game. I still stand by what I said. I still think this is one of my favorite Resident Evil games. And I like it more than 7. But I do think there are elements where 7 improved on way more. But this was a really, really great game. So, yeah, I hope you check it out if you ever get the chance. Number 3. And for my runner-up of Game of the Year goes to, oh man, I can't believe I'm going to say this. But the runner-up for Game of the Year, number 2, is Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game. Holy shit. I, up to this day, am stunned at what I played. I cannot believe Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game, is this fun. Like, I thought this game was going to crash and burn. And as anybody knows me, I have played the Avengers game. And the Avengers game, while I did at one point believe it was going to be a great game once we got Spider-Man and whatnot, ultimately it was kind of fruitless because the game fucking sucked. And I just couldn't believe that we were gonna get another game made by Square Enix. I was like, fuck, a Guardians game. And just watching the trailers, watching the promotion, I thought the game was just gonna be trash. I was like, oh no, here we go, another Avengers. But no, this game is what Avengers should have been. This game is fucking kick-ass. And I'll go even a step further. I think this game is better than the Guardians of the Galaxy from the MCU. I think this game does something incredible in the sense that it takes everything you know about the Guardians from that movie, but mix it up. Take some shit from the comics that even I was like, wait, you referenced that? Or this character is acting like the comic book representation, and just blends it together and made a great ass smoothie. And this shit is like banging. In terms of gameplay, I think the gameplay is not going to be for everyone, but a thing I love so much about the gameplay is that it kind of reminds me of V from Devil May Cry 5 and Mass Effect, where the main focus of the focus is you're playing as Star-Lord, and he has a story reason why you're playing as him, and he's your kind of your POV character. He's everything, and you're the leader of these ragtag group, and these ragtag group sucks. They don't pay attention to you. They don't do anything, so you have to order them around. And one of the things I love about the gameplay, just like I love about V, is that you have to order them to get in positions to do this. It's like you're controlling a squad, and you have to make sure your squad is intact, even when they're bouncing off of each other and throwing insults or jokes or talking about shit that's not appropriate. The game is just a blast. It truly lives up to the name of the Guardians. And to go back what I said earlier about it sometimes even being better than the actual movie, there are some very, very heartfelt moments. Like, yeah, the game has more time to develop these characters, but there are moments where these characters are just saying things, are just doing things that I'm just like, okay, this is way more compelling than what the fuck the movies are doing. Like, I would say Gamora is way more a fascinating character in here than she is in the fucking movie. Star-Lord and his powers, because yes, Star-Lord has powers or ability, is way more fleshed out and way more interesting than it is in the movie. We get to dive more deep into these characters. I think Drax is 10 times better in this than he is in the movie, because you get to feel his loss for his family a little bit more. And just the bond, the brotherhood / sisterhood of this team. It starts off with them all being annoyed by each other, but by the end, when there's critical scenes where characters have to like talk to each other and have heartwarming shit that I'm just like, there was moments where I was tearing up. I was like, whoa, like this is emotional shit. I'm just like, whoa. How even Mantis is even a better character. Mantis is fucking weird in here. She's fucking creepy, but I love it. Like, just so much more energy and love went into these characters. And that's not to dig on James Gunn, because he gave us the Guardians of the Galaxy. But man, I was just impressed. And the thing about this game, and this is something people's not gonna like, is the banter between everyone is fucking like over the top. Like, people are just talking 24/7, and it's like cool little Easter eggs in those little conversations. But most importantly, like just it felt like organic. And it get annoying to me, but I can easily see people say this was fucking annoying. But I love that every few minutes, characters were just randomly talk about shit, or insult each other, or start an argument. Sometimes you gotta break it up. Sometimes you can intervene. Sometimes you gotta make crucial decisions that play out differently depending on who. It was a blast. Like, I was just thinking. My only problem with this game is that, yeah, the game is a little long. It is like around 25, 26 hours in. And I was like, it didn't bother me, but I was like, maybe this could use a little bit more trimming. Only because the combat system is a great start of a brilliant combat system. But it would have been lovely if you could switch between the characters, even in some puzzles, because there are some puzzles in the game. But like, you can't do Star-Lord, since Star-Lord is a human, quote unquote. He can't do certain things, so he has to ask the Guardians to help him out. And it was cool to do puzzles with the Guardians, and them like, okay, Peter, can you figure this out? Like, the banter between them was great. But it would have been lovely if while you were doing those puzzles, you switch over to the characters and you do the puzzle. Or when you're playing as Rocket, and Rocket has to hack a security thing, you switch over to Rocket and you're playing with the switches and whatnot. I think that would be a really cool thing to do, but they just did not do that. Other than that, and like I said, the combat's just not for everybody. But other than that, this game was a fucking blast. I was just like, man, like, I could not. And the cool part is, they don't charge you for any fucking costume. I wonder if Avengers should have taken a lesson for that. But they don't charge you for any of the costumes. You can go find them on the world. They're hidden around the world. Some of them you get when you beat the game. But for the most part, you can earn every single costume in the game. There's no microtransactions. There's no any of that bullshit. And man, just thinking about this game is on the level of Spider-Man for me, in terms of, you could tell the people love Guardians and they wanted to honor it so much. You could tell the people who worked on this game love Guardians. And it's the same thing with Insomniac. Insomniac loved Spider-Man, so they worked their asses off to get Spider-Man the way how it was. And this just reminds me, like, the sky's the limit on what we could see with Marvel and also DC video games, but in particular Marvel video games. And they need to keep this same level and stop trying to chase trends. And, you keep doing shit like this, you're going to make amazing games. This is like the second or third, if you're considering Miles, the third Marvel's license game to be this fucking amazing. And shout outs to the team who made this. This is banger. This is a banger. Oh, and by the way, the soundtrack for this what makes this game even more cooler is the soundtrack. The soundtrack, they got the old school 80s, 90s soundtrack. It is a banger, man. But then they're like, we're gonna go the extra mile. This is how I know these guys love Guardians of the Galaxy. They made their own soundtrack just for this game. And I'm just like, man, unique, cool soundtrack for the game. And it actually is banging. And I'm like, and it fits the Guardians so well, especially Star-Lord himself. And man, I was just impressed. So shout outs to the Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the best games, man. And my number 2. This right here is a winner. I hope we get a sequel. We're gonna get a sequel. Let's pray. Personal game of the year. And if you have followed me on Twitter, the link is in the description box below, you already kind of knew what my game of the year was. But for those that don't know, let me get a little drum roll, please. I feel like 2021 is a great year. Want to know why? Because none of the big hitters came out. So it gave me the chance to play games that I probably wouldn't have ever played. So Metroid came out last year. And I would consider myself a rookie droid, or a rookie bounty hunter, as you will. Meaning, I haven't played much Metroid. I played a little bit of the Prime, played a little bit of Fusion. I played Prime 3. Never really dived much into Metroid. But man, Metroid fucking Dread was awesome. It was the crowning jewel of last year for me. Like, I was genuinely shocked how much I enjoyed that game. And I think the biggest thing that took me by surprise with Metroid, and why it was my personal game of the year, why it is my personal game of the year, is the level designing. Nothing the game does is anything groundbreaking or fantastic or amazing. But what it does do, unlike every other these other games, it doesn't reinvent the wheel. It doesn't do any of that. It just does everything flawlessly. Flawlessly. The gameplay in this fucking game is flawless. Like, I cannot find anything in this gameplay that generally bugged me. Unlike Guardians, which I said, it can be annoying just playing as only Star-Lord. Unlike Resident Evil, where I did say, it is fun to play. The shooting is tight and whatnot. But the game is short and it's missing this. None of that bothered me in this game. This was a very old school Metroidvania type of game that was just very competent. It didn't try to reinvent, it didn't try to do anything fucking crazy, but it did everything flawlessly. And I was so impressed. And as this kind of like my first Metroid, I was even very, very, very grateful at the stuff that they did add, which is the dread part of the title. This feeling of always being stalked by an enemy, almost like Nemesis as enemies with the robots, was so fun. That was a great change up of the pace of the game. Anytime I got into the area, I was like, fuck. Alright, how am I gonna do with these EDs? Alright, let me just navigate. Okay, C1, oh shit. Gotta stay quiet. Eventually you'll get an ability that will let you turn invisible, but you gotta take that precaution, because if you go invisible, you start moving slow, and if one sees you and you're low on energy, it starts taking away your health. So what are you doing? How are you gonna navigate this? Like, the game just throws new obstacles and new ways at you. And the gameplay, I would say, is just flawless. But the main thing I loved about this game was the progression system in this. As you get further in this game, you just feel like a fucking badass. From not having anything, not being able to do much, but just shoot your little blast, to being able to do triple S rank fucking jumps in the air with your screw attack to doing like some fucking flash running, and then like rising star, like shooting yourself up in the air. Like the progression and how you unlock abilities and how you navigate is fucking impressive as fuck. And then seeing how people was like secrets breaking the game and like certain things I was even doing, I was like, wait, was I supposed to do that at that time? And just like secrets breaking it and doing other crazy shit. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like this game is bonkers in the terms of what it allows you to do. It never reveals its hands. It never tells you can't do it. It's just like, I hope you figure it out. If you figure it out, hey. If you didn't, oh well. But the game is so much fun, and boss battles are so much fun. Like, yeah, they're hard, but I wouldn't say they're frustrating hard. They're not Dark Souls hard. They're just like, okay, let's learn the pattern of this asshole. Let's see what I gotta do to beat him. Okay, I died a few, and now, okay, I analyze you. Let's get it done. You never feel like you're frustrated fighting any of these bosses. And even when you're fighting Edis, which will instant kill you, you could counter their move. But the game, if you fail to counter it, it's a game over. But the game never is butt-nuggetingly fucking frustrating when you die from them. It sends you right back to the area where you started before you get into the area. So it's really cool. It's really accessible. It never really bothers you or is frustrating. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. Like, I was never frustrated at this game. There were some moments, and I think this is the part where I genuinely enjoyed this game. This is when the game really clicked to me as navigating this world and figuring out where the fuck to go. There were moments where I got lost for like 20 to 30 minutes getting lost, but I was never frustrated in those moments. It was all just figuring out, okay, what tools do I have? All right, how am I going to get through this? Okay, I have this tool. Okay, let me backtrack. Let me find out what this is. It almost reminded me of like old school Resident Evil in a way. Like, you have this tool now. Now you can go somewhere around here, go in this area, and unlock that thing you saw before. Okay, how do I get through this place? Okay, I can't remember where this is at. The game also has markers where you can put down and figure all this stuff out. But the game is never nothing frustrating. That's why I find it very weird. I'm not going to call out any particular YouTubers or any journalists, but I find it very weird that people was complaining about how they were like couldn't tell that certain objects were weak. There were moments where I couldn't tell, but I just started blasting. So I started blasting my way through stuff, and eventually I found out, oh, okay, that was a hole right there. I can just run up. Okay, let's keep on the adventure. I was always experimenting, and I just was really enjoying the game. Now, I would say, in terms of a story, I thought it was fascinating, but I didn't give a fuck about the story. You know what I care for? Samus. I think Samus has now rose into one of my favorite female characters in a video game, next to the boss from Metal Gear, next to Bayonetta. Next to Ellie. Well, Ellie, you kind of lost your spot, all right, after Last of Us 2. So sit on that. But yeah, like, she has risen to the top, and it's because I think she gave me Ryu Hayabusa vibes in the sense that she doesn't talk, and when she does talk, everything that comes out her mouth just sounds like fucking badass. But everything you can tell is her poses and the way how she looks, and through her mask, her helmet, everything is like she's straight to business. She's got this shit. Even when you have none of your power-ups, it always felt like Samus got this. Like, Samus is always in control. Like anything. Even like the first boss you fight in this game, she does like this little mini walk, like badass walk, into shooting the fucking monster, into jumping and hitting the monster, like jumping out, doing a cool action pose. And then it's like that with the second boss. just doing poses and looking like, all right, like you tried, but yeah, it is not gonna work. Like everything she does in here just screams badass, and that's cool. Sometimes, and it made me realize, it made me kind of look at silent video game protagonists a little differently. Not everything needs to be said, not every word needs to be spoken. Sometimes actions speak louder than words, and it kind of reminded me of kind of like why I like Ryu Hayabusa and also Isaac Clarke from Dead Space 1, is that not everything is it's need to be said. Sometimes your action, and then when she gets a moment to talk, she's like sounds fucking like very, again, very sure of himself, very professional, knows what the fuck she's doing, and it was like badass. Everything she does is just badass in this game. Uh, and I don't even know what more to say about this game. This game was just a blast to play. I think my only nitpick of this game is that once you beat this game, there is nothing to do except play it on hard. And in the day and age where I'm at, and I don't know if this is with all Metroidvania games, I would have loved to do a New Game Plus with at least some, not all, some of my weapons. Because to go back just barehandedly, it's cool because now you know where the fuck to go. And I found it interesting because now I was just like speeding my ass through levels, but then halfway through, I just got bored trying to collect things again. And I was like, I think there are ways to make this happen to still feel the sense of powerless, but also weak at the same time. And I just found like there should have been more to do. Like there should have been like a New Game Plus. Even if you do treat it like Dark Souls, where okay, you got New Game Plus, you got all your stuff, but all the enemies hit harder, all the enemies take more damage. Yeah, like good luck. And it's like I think I would have preferred that than what we got. And the game doesn't have that, and it really sucks. But that being said, did that stop my experience? Hell no. Like that final sequence where you get, where I don't want to spoil it, but something happens in the final sequence, the final boss, and the final sequence of the game. I was just like, yo, I was like, pull my fucking devil trigger. I was like, this shit is amazing, rip and tear. Anywho, but this game was just a blast, and it made me reevaluate a lot of things. It made me realize that I should probably play more Metroidvania games. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna play every Metroid game now, or I'm gonna look up every single Metroid game and start playing them now. No. I'm not saying that. But it made me realize I didn't play a lot of Metroidvania type games, and it made me really want to play them now. Really want to experience. I know there's Hollow Knight is a one that is like very popular. It made me really want to sit down and play even more Castlevania games. Because I played Symphony of the Night. I've beaten Symphony of the Night, but it made me want to go back and play Symphony of the Night. It made me want to go back and play this game. But I think the reason also why this game will stand the test of time and why I personally love it is because it is my first Metroid, and I hope this is a clear indication from Nintendo that people love Metroid. And I've seen the community. I've seen how the community has been. The community kind of reminds me a little bit of the community kind of reminds me a little bit of Devil May Cry, in the sense that it's a small but very passionate community, and there's people that love this franchise, and they want to see Samus in more missions other than Smash. They want to see more of her, and so I hope, and my biggest prayer is that they're looking at this game and they're like, okay, well, it was a Smash hit. Let's make more Prime and Metroid games, and also let's get this started. Let's tell these fans what we're doing with Metroid Prime 4. Like, let's get it over. And we got a bunch of newcomers. let's do an HD collection of the Prime trilogy. I think people would really want that. I would want that because I would like to complete those games. This is my baby Metroid, and I'm glad to be a part of the community now. Now I have to do a bunch of research on Metroid stories and whatnot, but it's okay. I'm okay with it. Uh, I'm just happy that Metroid fans finally got what they wanted, and I'm so happy. Um, but yeah, like this game is like mwah, wonderful. And it also kind of made me kind of realize something about Nintendo is that although the system is weak, the Switch is a weak ass system and whatnot. And I don't really play my Switch all too much. Ultimately, it made me realize, like, you know, you guys may be weak, but you guys have quality games, and I appreciate that. So for me, Metroid Prime or Metroid Dread is my game of the year. I'm looking forward for more Metroid games, and without further ado, that's going to be the end of my video. So if you're new to the channel, please comment, rate, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and let me know what is your personal game of the year. And without further ado, I'm going to be off this, and we will talk about another game of the year when 2022 is over. So, peace out, everybody.